Game 1 draft here. Samsung on the blue side, KT taking over on the red side. Now Ezreal, the first champion removed.
And intriguing that the previous series is probably the first one we've had since Runeglaive Ezreal became a real consideration, where not picked or banned anywhere in the whole series.
Wow. So not only the Ezreal, but the Thresh as well, the pocket ban up against Peekaboo. We've seen, I mean, when the first game against Jadair, he level 1 ganked onto Kuzan in the mid lane.
Won the game.
Won the game right off of that level 1 gank, basically, because KT, when you give them that little lead in the early game, Peekaboo and Score have developed into this fearsome synergy where they just get into your jungle. And there's the Kog'Maw. I think this is a very smart ban. SKT used the Kog'Maw bans to come back from an 0-1 deficit against KT Rolster.
This is our world. We've been in a Kog'Maw first pick world. Now it's a Braum first pick world, given his flexibility both on the offense and the defense. A lot of interesting pocket bans being banned through. I feel like Twisted Fate and Kog'Maw will loom as more regular bans as we come into the playoff stages. Still no information on which way these comps want to go, as there's strong engage options. For example, Annie, Irma ban last series, available here if anyone wants to take it.
They certainly have that option. Score, I feel, we were talking about this a little bit before the broadcast. His Rek'Sai and his Echo, I think, stronger champions for him than the Gragas. We could see which direction Eve wants to go here if he's going to try and get that Nidalee in the end. And that Braum, interesting, considering that would be a first pick when we consider that Ezreal is actually banned here, which is a big reason behind a lot of the Braum priority.
I feel like it definitely came into the scene because it was that hard counter to the Ezreal, but now with the small buffs and just what we're seeing, how flexible the pick is, despite being a melee-ranged laner, still gets to the laning phase just fine after the Q buffs, and just has so much flexibility to really impact fights. So not surprised to see it really skip ahead in priority, even with AP Ezreal fast looming as a thing of the past.
Yeah, and as we take a look at the opposite support pick, Janna for Peekaboo. A lot of Peekaboo's strength is in his early aggression, and that's going to, you know, take a little bit of the edge off of his bite.
What are you saying? Just skill E at level 1, there's big auto attack damage. Yeah, there's no CC effects, so probably not going to see a repeat of what really threw Jin off in that series last week. Eve locks in the Nidalee. Okay, they're sticking with what's worked here, Samsung.
Yeah, maybe thinking about the Sivir, a champion we've seen banned a lot actually against Fury, and a good takeaway. So where does Arrow go now? Usually, when we talk about Arrow's success, we'd be seeing a Vayne here, perhaps, but that's not really ideal against what's going into this composition at the moment. Nagne has a chance to take that Azir away from Crown. I think you have to take that right now.
It could be the Draven, you know? He didn't have the most success on it last time. Of course, he was just one cash-in away from really taking over that game. I believe he had 600+ stacks at one point, so it would have been a massive cash-in, but just couldn't pull it off. It's still a wonderful laning matchup. If this was Crystal from Snake, definitely will be locking in at this point, but I know what you mean, because the thing about Arrow, 8-4 Sivir, 6-1 Kog'Maw. We're talking about 12 and 7 games. That's 19 games where he has an above 10 KDA, 10.8 on Sivir, 16K on Kog'Maw. The rest of the champions kind of fall away. There's no real guarantee as to where he goes with the picks. He's considering the Jinx.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh. This is not what you want to see.
No, it definitely is not. A lot of hovers, and it will be the Corki lock-in.
And this is, I mean, Arrow's Corki. This is, whether we were talking about getting caught or no damage potential, we've seen multiple games where Bloodthirster Trinity Force Corki was just tickling enemy tanks.
Or just balking into 3 members of the enemy team. His team fight positioning that is his strength with some other champions doesn't have that same effect. So big poke comp actually locked in. Crown wants the Varus matchup into Azir. That is a hard matchup for Varus.
And now, I mean, it's the most obvious Maokai pickup ever, but maybe someday has been sipping the same water as Duke, because look, backline pressure is what you want to pick up with the picks and bans. You can go for Maokai, the safe choice, or you can throw in the Olaf and just try and smash Varus, because let me tell you, Varus can do nothing against Olaf.
No, Chain of Corruption going to fall rather flat in that case. And Duke was saying in the MVP interview that he likes the Olaf matchup into Rumble. He is a fan of this. And with that damage over time, I mean, maybe you can see that working out. If you get an early Hex Drinker, as Olaf gets lower and lower and lower, you can actually make some sort of play right there as your kind of attack speed ramps up. But Maokai, the safer choice and more reliable choice, to be sure.
And look, it's targeted engage onto the very squishy Varus in the back line. So look, Not going to take the risk. I kind of guessed when he didn't change to Ghost as his summoner spell that was probably going to be the Maokai. Saddest of days, I know. Look, Olaf versus Rumble, definitely something you can navigate. First 5 levels may be difficult, but the one gank really pushed him over the top. And when Olaf gets going with a lane, you know, in a long lane like top, you can run people down and kill them. But sadly, no Olaf here.
No Olaf here, and kind of an awkward composition, actually, from Samsung. A lot of damage, very little frontline threat. Luna really going to have to do a lot of work on this Braum to keep KT off of them.
And if the turrets ever go down, Monte Cristo, the flanks from the likes of Maokai are going to be super potent because it's not just Crown, who of course you're going to be going for as target number 1, but even the Nidalee, knocking her down. Either of these poke members have very squishy base stats. Maybe Eve will actually go for the Rod of Ages that we saw Chaser pick up, because the backline, there's a lot of threat from the likes of Someday and Score.
Yep. Very dangerous indeed, and even Nagne, if he can get behind that Varus, it's game over pretty much for the Varus pick. And there's a lot of poke here, but not a lot of late game damage. That is for sure. So Samsung, they've got a group early, and you know, Sivir's just not the best champion to have with a Nidalee and a Varus. Sure, you'll get a little bit more speed for kiting, but you're going to lack that reliable long-range auto attack or rocket like Corki has to continue to put down damage. Well, let's get into game 1.
A lot of optimism in the voice for both the cheer squads. Samsung maybe a bit full on, but look, it's a difficult team comp to put off. Now, in the perfect world, Sivir slams down the wave. Suddenly, the poke is just insane as they're hoping for another Penta. If he gets 3 Penta kills in a season, we're going to have to really try just re-evaluating metrics, because it's been an insane season of Penta kills.
Yeah, and 6 so far, 3 from KT Rolster. Nagne with 1 on Azir.
Yeah.
Arrow with 2 on to Sivir.
No Sivir this game. Corki versus Sivir. We've talked about this matchup at length because it's basically the default 2v2 matchup. Corki, at least when he hits level 6, has the rockets to maybe try and force out a spell shield, but so easy to spell shield the phosphorus bomb and win those trades early.
Yeah, that's sign. Fans of Cloud Templars from America, actually. So
The name of Cloud Templar spreads far and wide. There was no Rammus on the side, so I didn't know the joke.
Yeah, and well, I'm very curious because Varus just hasn't been a big pick here in Korea as of late. Certainly earlier in this season we saw a little bit of it, but nowhere near to the degree that it's still used in regions like Europe, and especially with an Azir who can win a lot of these poke trades early.
And Crown felt confident enough to not pick up the cleanse. You look down the lineup, you really want to be cleansing the Maokai. You might say, okay, I mean, Nagne could kind of gone for the same decision. Remember, the only hard CC is Crown, and maybe if Luna gets a couple of the concussive blows on, but Nagne goes for the cleanse, and that might actually shape to be very important, because cleansing off the Chains of Corruption, suddenly, a Zeosec play, very possible.
Okay, well, let's see how well he can use that cleanse in this game. Crown just falling back very early on. We do have a lane swap that will result in a 2v2 in the top side. Arrow doing Arrow Corki things and just getting nailed early by this concussive blow from Luna. Pretty poor trade there for KT.
He just walked up, took the stun, took the damage. Look, it's not quite as bad as Prey, who of course got forced out of lane in the last series, but definitely have to pop that potion early. No sustain available. A lot of lane control available to Fury and Luna.
Yeah, and Fury is that very lane-dominant AD carry. He is like OQ. He gets leads in the laning phase, and sometimes Samsung can ride those leads into a victory. And also, Peekaboo, who likes to roam early, not going to have so much freedom now that there is the all-in potential onto Arrow. So we'll see how that sorts out in the top side. KT, a team that puts so many resources into Someday.
I don't really understand the draft coming through from KT, because remember, this is a first rotation Janna as the answer to the Braum pick. So okay, disengage for disengage. So far you've got me, KT, but how do we end up with this Corki Janna duo? it's a bit strange to me that we've kind of gone this way, because Peekaboo now is kind of forced to stay in lane with a very safe AD carry. It just doesn't feel like specifically the AD carry pick fits what they were going for.
Well, I mean, what are your options here? If
Draven.
Okay, you want to go for the Janna Draven, just maximum crazy trading combo?
At least you try and hold down Fury. You cannot win laning phase against Janna Draven. If you're a Sivir, it's basically impossible. We see it maybe from time to time if so much jungle attention is sent to the top lane, but...
Yeah, but KT has lost every single Draven game they've played this year, Papa Smithy.
I mean, their Corki games aren't much better, Monte Cristo.
Fair point. I cannot argue with that. All right, here comes the gank. Eve wants to come in early, and Arrow is having trouble. They have to use that exhaust early. Nice use of the Valkyrie to deny the pounce from Eve. Good timing. Peekaboo takes another spear, though, and that is just yet more damage onto the KT lineup. They're trying to target Crown in response.
So Eve is forced out of the jungle. Saw could have taken a camp, but he's going for the aggressive gank.
Chilling Smite, flash knockup. Crown has to flash in return, but there's not enough damage to kill him. No mana onto Nagne to really follow that up. So flash for flash and heal. Nice trade from KT.
Yeah, he used both as summoners there. So, I mean, swapping your jungler's flash for the mid lane, already a big advantage. And suddenly Nagne, this is his penta-killing champion. It is the Azir. He should have an even easier laning phase in what was always shaping to be pretty straightforward, as Azir kind of runs Varus over in lane.
Yeah, and this is what I don't like about mid lane Varus, Papa Smithy, especially when we consider a champion like Jace instead, who just has more escapes, has a knockback, is a little bit more self-sustaining. Certainly, Varus is strong, but when you target him heavily pre-6 and you're, score coming down for a gank at the bottom side. Kube is very far pushed forward, but Eve is also here. Kube very low. Kube not going to live through this one as Arcane Smash just out of reach, actually, but Eve has to pull the flash too. And close. Someday choosing not to flash could have had that kill.
Eve made a big misplay. So it came in level 3 to level 4. Of course, we already seen Nidalee chunked out on top, missed the spear. Now, that was a very easy spear to hit, missed the spear, but then was very smart in terms of team fighting to just present himself as a very squishy, very tasty Nidalee, drew the attention, still had flash available, and finally got Cuvée through. So, okay, probably should have done that with damage threat, but in the end, does keep his top laner alive.
Yeah, it does, but someday also I feel misplaying that right there. Thought his Q was going to be in range when it in fact was not. So they do miss out on that kill, and that means that Samsung still has control over this top side, although Arrow not farming badly considering everything that's happened. And KT now with some nice summoner spell advantages in the side lanes. At least now you can say Someday has the flash up again. It makes it even more dangerous for Kube to try and match his farm. Score has some choices about where he can go in terms of his solo lane ganking, and Eve is going to have to play a very reactionary game around the solo lanes, whereas basically now that Arrow's getting close to 6, he's going to have an easier time in the duo lane, and he has his summoners back up now, so this is actually ended up being a pretty good situation for KT Rolster.
Eve doesn't really have the safe lanes to gank. As you mentioned, Cuvée really struggling in this lane. Maokai often runs over the Rumble. 20 CS is the advantage, and with no flash, going to be difficult to reset what has been a deep freeze by Someday. Most of the laning phase Scores coming again, but can't get on top of Crown.
Yeah, Crown with the ult now too, so that is a bit of a harder gank to make, as you can just stop somebody in their track with the Chain of Corruption, and that really stuffs any dives too, because as it spreads out, if you hit it, there's really not a lot of follow-up you can do in a skirmish.
With the cleanse from Nagne, I mean, whenever you think of Nidalee jungle, you're like, okay, I want CC in the lanes. Maokai Nidalee is probably the best synergy between your targeted engage, and of course the very high damage ganks that Nidalee is able to put out. But cleanse is going to be the case in the mid lane. In the bottom, maybe you can hope for the concussive blows, but it almost got Eve killed in the top lane in the first gank. Not the best lanes to gank, so probably just going to have to be happy farm time for Eve. And if Rek'Sai and KT get lane pressure, very low base stats means you could potentially try and get in the face of Eve, as has been Score's way in recent series.
Absolutely. And if Score can get into the enemy jungle, like you're saying, maybe he can at least contain the Evelynn somewhat, but he's been a bit reluctant so far.
And I guess my point is that the catch-up mechanic's not there for Samsung. If the ganks come over, great, they'll get map control. But if they ever lose map control, very hard for them to actually try and get the wards or push any vision out because their lanes certainly not in helpful spots. And with the summoner spells, contesting anywhere around the map right now isn't really an option for Samsung.
And when we talk about the lead too, if they fail to get it and they start losing towers, Maokai is a strong teleport champion, but not only that, but Someday is really good at Maokai teleport flanks. That is one of his strengths. It always has been. We think back to some of Someday's all-time great games, like the summer finals last year against Samsung Blue, and that was a major reason behind their victory. Here we go again.
Still no flash up though, so Crown able to walk away, score. Look, he's not really sacrificing any resources. Okay, he's 3 CS behind Italy, but not really a big factor. But just the repeated ganks come around mid. If he can blow the flash again, it'll be a significant factor because honestly, Varus has actually done very well. Crown had that flash blown early. Score has made multiple visits, but very competitive in CS.
Yeah, and Nagne has been not willing to use his flash either. You can think that maybe because up until now, Crown's flash was down, maybe he could have gotten a flash Emperor's divide play in to finalize a gank, but KT playing a very risk-averse game early, and they're running out of their time now to play around the flash timer of Kuve in the bottom lane.
In general, the timers were created by Masterful Pathing, but it's capitalizing on that, whether that's in terms of sending multiple people to pick up a turret when you know the enemy top laner's flash is down, or contesting for a dragon when you know you have a big summoner advantage. If you just blow those summoners and then can't make anything out of it, then it's kind of a moot point, especially when Samsung, on the whole, is competitive in CS, is Chain of Corruption instantly cleansed. Okay, suddenly a window for Samsung to play around.
Yeah, and they had to cleanse that too because right now all the vision around the mid lane is in favor of Samsung, so there could have been an Italy rather waiting there with a spear coming from the river, so he didn't have a choice, had to use the summoner immediately.
Samsung have been very fast at getting pink wards onto the map. They have good vision zones. This is, again, the good Samsung that really started to shine through this season. KT, look, they're not in any bad position. In fact, they're ahead in gold, but for all their early game play, the last 5 minutes really been muted from what has been a previously rampaging KT.
Yes, absolutely, but the advantage is still there. The CS differential has grown significantly in the bottom side of the map right now, as we see 35, the current number. So Kuve's still struggling, and a lot of that was the fact that his summoner spell was blown early. Maybe there wasn't a follow-up gank, but oh, nice actual job on the tornado there from Peekaboo.
Just like the Alistar matchup, if you're really on point, you can do great things in the disengage from Janna. But it has kept Peekaboo in lane, and not necessarily with a hyper-scaling AD carry. Corki, Janna just sitting next to each other. I mean, it's wonderful to have Peel as an AD carry, but of course you have the longest range gap closer, or escape, for Corki and the Valkyrie, the 800 range escape. So doesn't really sound like it really commands a Janna when it comes to Peel. Maybe the Azir will be the one that needs that in the late game, but keeping Peekaboo stuck in a lane, just picking up experience, you know, getting ancient coin stacks, that's a mini win for Samsung.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how fast he can get the talisman off of it, because that ability to disengage could prove highly crucial depending on the timing of the team fights. Score just scrapping a little bit with Luna and Eve in the enemy jungle. Got a host of wards down into bottom, so they have some pretty good dragon control right now. And this is where KT can really start to threaten that dragon, because Nagne is pushing forward. He is winning the pressure battle in the mid lane. And here we go, scored there. Luna has to play cautiously. They do get the pink ward, but it comes at a small price.
A very small price. Finally, Fury and Arrow are caught. Arrow going very aggressive. This is the Valkyrian we talked about.
Wow, he actually just goes ahead and takes that fight. He has the Sheen already, so confident that he would be able to win the burst battle, especially since the last buy from Fury was, in fact, an Avarice Blade. So now that he's 6, forces the ult out of Fury. That is nice not to have in that bottom lane. Does limit the potential of an all-in. Peekaboo taking some chunks right there, some kind of awkward tornado usage.
It's honestly quite rare for AD carries to understand, hey, the enemy's just spent 800 gold on delayed power. He has the Sheen Phage, which is definitely by far the go time when it comes to Trinity Force carries in terms of their lane presence, and actually going in aggressive and winning and trade. Judging power as an AD carry is deceptively massive, and it's just good to see.
Yeah, turned out to be very nicely played from Arrow. That is an encouraging sign on this Corki, Papa Smithy.
It's just good to see him developing. Hopefully we'll see the late game damage, because I remember a couple of games where just really was tickling the enemy on the Corki. So look, had some time away from the pick, been exclusively playing the Cog more recently, and maybe best foot forward this time out. It couldn't get much worse.
Yeah. Arrow is such an interesting player to me because it's not that he's even bad on caster carries. He's good on Cog Money, and he's great on Ezreal. It's just for some reason his Corki has never been up to competitive par, in spite of the similarities between it and many other Trinity Force carries.
It's just some players that, you know, you think you've pigeonholed their playstyle. Samsung have made a really nice rotation. We haven't seen the heal onto Crown for the attack speed, but that's a lot of outer turret damage.
Yeah, it is indeed, but are they going to pay for it? Someday is here. He already TP'd in.
Bye-bye.
Eve and Crown is dead to rights, and they're going to get that turnaround. First blood for Nagne. That's going to be a Dragon too. Now, Samsung likes to do this. They like to put Eve in lane and have him auto-attack turrets. But sometimes you are going to pay for that. Very proactive teleport from Someday. He waited very patiently for his laners before showing himself. Very nicely done. And they're going to get a Dragon and about half of the turret HP down after the Trailblazer clears out the wave.
It's looking to see the turret health in top lane. It's fallen low, but no, it's not going to be taken down as far as we can see. So not even able to answer with immediate gold. That is very nice chip damage onto both mid and top. So maybe if they make some smart rotation in the next 6 minutes, they can open up a bit of a goldie. They're only 400 gold behind, of course, a lot of standing gold on those outer turrets. But immediate power and that dragon stack over to Najee. Oh, to KT, sorry.
Yeah. I'm so impressed by Someday's teleporting skill, too. If we just look at how long he held that, he was just standing in the fog of war, waiting for everyone else to catch up, waiting for Nagne to get back to lane. So not trying to pull the trigger early and make sure that they can put him in a situation where they could possibly escape, and instead punishing the overcommitment to that mid lane tower.
The item timing for Cuvée is early, but it's not ideal. You know, you finish the 900, say, okay, I want to take a fight. I've got teleport up, but of course, Dragon's just gone down. And now if he wants to finish off this turret, it's going to be very overextended without boots. And it's probably not going to be punished, but could be a very different game if they were able to delay that Dragon. They just got a bit too cute trying to do turret damage. Crown kept his summoners up, so that's still at least a small consolation, but nice little early capitalization by specifically Someday.
And if I'm Samsung right now, if I really want to take advantage of this, as Arrow has to Valk away, Peekaboo not there to back him up, I really start thinking about taking some pink wards, advancing them into the topside river, because what you want to do is have Cuvée push forward, then walk into the mid lane, lay down the equalizer, and have him try and gank the mid lane.
A very cute pink ward just towards the mid lane turret, so maybe you're being prophetic with those words. Score's actually rotating around top. We might see some action around there.
This is coming in, so Someday already with a lockdown. Cuvée pops the equalizer. There goes the flash. Flash for Someday. There's a Chilling Smite and the Arcane Smash, but Brace Seeker, or the red buff, who really knows, will take that. And Score grabs a kill, but Samsung starts to stack on the bottom side. Eve right there. They want to take down this turret, but the Eye of the Storm on the tower. They're still going to get it. Eve knows how to siege, and they're going to get two towers at the same time, actually.
And you know the third one will come very soon as top is perilously low. There is an answering turret by KT, but this is the global goal we're talking about. So despite being 2 kills in the hole, they are picking up gold around the map.
Yeah, they certainly are, so they're on track as long as they can keep their siege up. Taking down that mid turret, so crucial to the effectiveness of their composition. And Fury finds himself walking up into top lane right now. His sights set on the last remaining tier 1.
Doesn't have a Dragon timer to work about just yet. You can see more than 2 minutes. We remember the first being taken down and no on-screen indicator. So just able to go freely push. It's going to be a gold advantage for Samsung should they secure that particular objective. And of course, with the Avarice Blade that we spoke about earlier, it might not give an immediate power, but powering down the CS so far.
Eve going for the Rod of Ages, which is the build that we've seen take over from the tier now that the Rod stacks provide more AP and mana than they did previously, so naturally a very good item for Nidalee in the jungle.
Although health was at the cost of those offensive stats, you still get more health than the standard Nidalee build that really only had the Seraph's Embrace shield to cause any sort of immediate tankiness.
I mean, I don't really see the point of a lot of extra health on Jungle Diddley, because is a couple hundred HP really going to save you in 90% of situations if you're in Cougar form and you're taking that damage? I think that if you are taking enough damage to die as a Jungle Diddley, you've already mispositioned.
I can understand that, but Nidalee does so much damage in that Cougar form. You want to get into it. The answering damage is always going to be registered. If you can itemize it naturally, okay, you now have this kind of stacking time to work about. Remember, it's probably going to be 21, 22-minute Rod of Ages, but when it pays off, just the stack of stats it's going to give you, it's going to feel good.
Well, Samsung now aggressively posturing around top lane. They want to push down this last remaining tower, which is hanging by a thread right now. KT not going to let him do a teleport play coming in. Someday already on the outside. There's the Siverold pop. Glacial Fisher going to delay KT Rolster, but is it enough? Fury very low, and here comes Someday. He's just matching. There's Someday. First kill for him, and now more Arcane Smash. They get the slow. Goodbye, Luna. And there's another kill for Score. I mean, the TP play has been the game changer for KT this game. They rode out an entire TP timer from Kuve. Kuve just not responding. Goes to the split push instead, and KT finding the kills on the map.
Kind of the peculiar thing to me, Monte Cristo, is that, as you mentioned, Kuve had the teleport available. Also, Crown had pressure in mid, so he would have been first to react. There was a potential for collapse, but it probably would have been 4v4 action, whatever happened. Someone was going to die. It was always going to be Fury. But surprising to see, not even a posturing. Didn't seem to be a very clear call to Kuve to just not rotate.
Yeah. I don't know about this. I think you have to fight with that Rumble right now, because the more kills you give to this Maokai, especially with the kind of composition that Samsung is running, they are not going to be able to kill him before he gets onto the backline and starts CCing everybody on your team. You don't have enough crowd control yourself to stop him from getting back there.
You're just worried about the Aegis that probably is going to be the next item completed by Score. Could go into a Randuin's, but expecting the Aegis given just the stack of magic damage on Samsung's side. This is the second dragon we talked about. First one was claimed by KT. Poke is very nice for Samsung, but without the teleport, maybe they've navigated the backline threat of the Maokai.
Well, Samsung wants to poke right now. They want to get down the tier 1 in the top side, but KT just starting to all in the turret right, or the dragon right away. This is the proper decision. They're not, still afraid of that poke, and they're going to let the dragon reset. That is not a great way to play this if you're KT.
Very hard for them to kite upwards, because it will be a perfect equalizer spot. It's one of the reasons why Rumble is often on the team that monopolizes those early dragons. The poke is really good, but Nagne is setting these lane matchups up. There's always a cost and a benefit. Arrow takes some nice poker damage as well.
So now Samsung rather, they've delayed this for a while, and we do see Kuve. He has TP'd into the dragon a bit prematurely. He could have kept pushing in the top side. And KT changes their tactics. They say, well, we've got Nazir. He's just going to dump some sand soldiers into this turret. We're going to take it and dance around this objective. Fury trying to answer with a tier 2 in the mid lane.
Yeah, the tier 2 in the mid lane would be a big, big swap. It would definitely swing towards Samsung. They're getting it very, very low. They have good damage, but they're really worried about the flank, and they should be.
They should be. They're going to try and recall right now, take out some Rek'Sai tunnels while they do so. Just some arrows firing backwards. Someday taking a big chunk of damage over time. So Samsung may have actually fought their way to a favorable trade in a dragon.
Yeah, they have the 2 pink wards down. I didn't really think about, so that their pink wards, both in terms of coverage and removal, has been very, very smart, but they're not happy to opt into a fight, even though they've been registering a lot of poke over the course of the last 3 minutes.
This is a really good objective dance between both of these teams. We can see the trading that's going on as they posture around the map. KT now just wants to say, okay, if you go for that dragon, we're going to take your mid-tier 1.
It's good terrain for KT to fight on. There's no equalizer choke that they have to opt into, so definitely the better half of the map. They don't have Baron Vision, but looks like they're going to be happy to just force a trade in the end. They could have kind of walked towards Baron and really baited out a Samsung face check, but in the end, just end up equaling up the outer turrets. Samsung very fast to get those chipped down, and KT quick to answer them.
I'm actually very impressed that we take a look at Samsung last season as a team that was so woeful, and now this time they're actually able to win this kind of rotational trading game against KT Rolster. They played it really, really well.
And look, the first 30 minutes of the game, they've made excellent rotation decisions, but how many times have we seen them pick top lane Rek'Sai but opt into fights, or just understand that they don't necessarily have the team fight, and then it feels like the decision-making in the late game, whoever's making the late game calls, that's the only spot where Samsung's really fallen down strategically.
Well, those late game calls are usually just one where you need a very veteran player to actually execute well, and certainly Peekaboo and Score, those big shot callers on KT, have been around the scene for a lot longer than most of the Samsung players, especially since Wraith is not playing right now.
Of course, Wraith, formerly Casper of SK Telecom, so been around the scene a very long time. We speculated the reason that Wraith was playing more was that potential for veteran shot calling, but Samsung honestly, regardless of their support, has kind of been around the same spot the whole season. They're never Spenu level in terms of really struggling at the bottom, but they just can't really take more than a single game off the top team.
Well, it's true. Samsung really only ever gets one good game in a best of 5, and otherwise they get sort of, or best of 3 rather, otherwise they get sort of run over in the other matchups. And we talked about this early in the season where they would come in with an excellent team comp in one game, really execute on it well, then a couple of picks would get banned out. They sort of pick the same thing again, but slightly worse and lose, and then they get destroyed in game number 3.
But let's be fair to Samsung. We haven't seen that so much recently. Maybe that's a lack of innovation, or maybe that's them improving their draft base. I guess it's a little bit hard to say. KT were guilty of that to some degree last week when you know, they got the successful game off with the Cogmore, moved to Twitch with kind of the same sort of thought behind the comp, and the Twitch pick just really didn't work for them.
It really, really did not. We've seen a lot of attempts at Twitch, whether it's OQ or Arrow, and none have yet really served to impress.
There's the potential, you know, everyone thinks of the best case scenario with Twitch, but the downside, it just what really holds him down. Especially if the enemy can bait out your ult, you're just a short range AD carry that's so easy to get on top of and completely deleted.
So another attempt here at the top tier 1 from Samsung. It looks like there's not going to be an anticipated response this time from KT. They were nice and set up last time around, but nobody there to answer. Someday just going on a split pushing mission. Kuve's done a nice job of actually closing that CS gap in this game. Has that Void Staff right now, so he can be a little bit more comfortable against Someday's magic resist.
My big worry for Samsung, when they're fighting in narrow crevices, they look pretty good. Of course, you can try and guarantee the poke with the lights, the line poke from Nidalee and Crown. You know, the Rumble Equalizer can impact a fight, but the other CC is not really there. You know, they have the Equalizer and what feels like an Equalizer with Luna, so of course there's 2 line abilities that have good synergy, but they can't really force very much unless the enemy is coming to them, unless they start to control the dragon. Okay, they've picked up the answering dragon, but it feels like if the game is played in the middle, if the game is played in the open, KT have so many repositioning options, and of course the damage reduction from Someday, that Samsung will really struggle to make things happen.
Or to hit multiple people with their poke from the Varus or the Boomerang Blade. So
KT looking for the ARAM. That will be the ideal for them. But so far, just been kind of this war of attrition.
Look at Peekaboo 2. Medjais, we don't really see that item very frequently onto Janna players like we did towards the end of last year, a bit of a rare buy.
We don't see level 1 gangs either, but Peekaboo, he does it a little bit differently, Monte Cristo.
Well, he does. Usually we see something like an Aegis of the Legion, though, onto a support Janna here in Champions, and that, I would have to say, would be much more useful this game, more than likely, with this Janna.
Itemization, surprising to see Score actually goes straight to that random. You know, wants to take out Fury and Crown. He's going to try and ignore the magic damage. So an Aegis from support would have really helped justify that decision. Score's trying to get on top of Juve.
Really deep. He's going to take a huge amount of damage. Has a flash out right there. Nagne coming in. Luna starting to pursue. Nagne is just going to get chunked out. Emperor's Divide going to bottle everybody up. And Samsung, I am shocked that they did not drop the equalizer right there to try and make a play out of that.
Juve, very awkward timing on the overheat. Wasn't able to put it down, and then kind of by the time he got it available again, the moment had passed. He could have thrown it out and drawn out a flash, chose not to. But Samsung definitely got the minimum out of what was just a poor decision by Score.
Yeah, I think he must have thought there was perhaps a ward for somebody to TP to, or that he was closer. But Monsoon down, Emperor's Divide down, those are not going to be up by the time the dragon is spawned.
Samsung get position on the dragon from that poor contestant score. Remember, just in very simple terms, he was opting into what was looking like a team fight on top of a beautiful equalizer position. They're doing great work, just pushing in mid. You don't need to get too cute unless you have that split timing perfectly.
Yeah. Samsung has got the setup right now, even though they don't control the speed shrine. So eyes on the dragon from KT as it spawns. They at least have that going for them. Someday here in the jungle will be looking to recall right now. They have some wards down, especially in the tri-brush. There's a pink there for Someday to go to.
Score hasn't been spotted either, just hanging around the bottom side of the map. Someday, as you mentioned, ready for the home guard flame. Arrow.
Okay, well, Arrow just gets caught by the chain of corruption, and that is going to eliminate KT's hopes of actually contesting this dragon, or so it would appear. Yes, Someday just going to home guard his way out of the base right now as Crown gets the drop onto the Corki. Summoner heal not enough to save Arrow as they burst him down.
How do these things happen, Monte Cristo? How is it that he just falls down when mispositioning on Corki of all champions, the safest of the AD carry options?
Well, I don't know. Ezreal's pretty safe, too.
Okay, but he's not really an AD carry. Come on. He gets in the AD carry role when his mid lane is taken away from him cruelly.
Okay, well, in the Runeglaive meta, perhaps. We'll see where he goes in some of the more future games, I guess. But yeah, there is a difference, like having that instant flash there.
And maybe it's just the reality of knowing you have that ability to reposition gets you to play that much more aggressively. I mean, that's maybe just a reality because this is consistently the story on Corki, whereas he's just outstanding on the likes of Sivir and Kog'Maw.
Yeah. Indeed. You speak truth, sir. So, gold lead going to be evened up, but dragon advantage to Samsung. Very low kill game, but been an exciting one in terms of the play on the map right now.
And Italy, been the big benefactor. Remember, those 10 minutes of dragon control coincide with her powering up. She's 9 minutes into the 10 minutes of the Rod of Ages. I believe it's going to be completed as I'm completing this sentence. So that's already powered up now. A big AP stack. Looks like the Luden's Echo probably going to be the next purchase. These spears, they're going to start to stick.
Yeah, to a certain degree, I agree with you. But again, come the late game, we've seen these poke compositions do well, but once you get to 6 items, the damage really starts to fall off.
And because these members are so squishy, one small mistake and suddenly deletion is the reality for both Crown and Eve, Rod of Ages or no.
Yeah. Fury not going to be too durable either until he can actually get something like a Banshee's Veil to help him live through the crowd control.
Teleport flame coming through from the Maokai.
Here he goes, on to Crown immediately. Crown get caught, popped up. Chain of Corruption not going to save him. Someday now, all over Fury in the backline. Nothing is going to kill him. Fury going to take a big arcane smash. Huge play there. Fury falls, and the equalizer just not going to be enough. Nagne comes in, bounces the Rumble forward for a double kill, and there you go. That's the problem.
You get to that squishy backline and suddenly Baron is a huge opportunity for KT. Crown gets deleted, doesn't take the cleanse, is the first one caught, and he will instantly die.
Well, what do you do in that situation? He wanted the heal in this game instead of going for the cleanse that would help him against the Maokai. And now that is a Baron for KT Rolster. They just do a huge amount of, and again, Someday has saved this game for KT. Flash engage.
Yeah, and he just knew there was no vision whatsoever in the area and just put it all on the line, and man, the payoff is sweet.
And look at this too. Twisted advance stops Nidalee during the pounce with a well-timed arcane smash. Very nicely done. And Kube also mispositions his equalizer right there. Instead of getting it perfectly vertical to actually get more damage down. That could have changed that fight, actually.
But you've just seen the difference between Maokai and Rumble. Of course, Rumble needs the setup. He needs to be in position to really lay down, that line skill shot of the equalizer. Maokai put the Nikes on, got the pick, and the team fight was really over there. Equalizer on point or no.
Yeah. Well, Peekaboo got some sweet, sweet Magi stacks for that.
Oh,
Finally gets the Talisman of Ascension. A very useful tool to use in conjunction with this Rek'Sai and the Maokai. And now Baron going to be coming through. Still very good wave clear for Samsung.
Does Sivir have any kill potential on Maokai, even with that third, the last whisper being completed? I mean, the Thorn Mail now.
Thorn Mail, Frozen Heart Thorn Mail.
Nope. The answer is no. Even Randuin's, you know, the Randuin's try is actually looking pretty good. The no Aegis, it's actually starting to pay off for KT.
Well, it's being built now at long last. Score, well, I assume Score will build it. We will see.
No guarantee.
Well, the Luden's Echo is nearing completion, so there is a certain amount of AP threat, especially when we consider the Rumble too.
I think it's definitely necessary. You know, once you see Nidalee Rumble, Aegis should be itemized somewhere in the first 25 minutes, but they went the Randuins, they delete Crown, and honestly, it's looking pretty damn good for KT.
Well, they're not really able to do much with this Baron buff. Someday still going to be taking a large amount of poke damage here, and they're just trying to contain the minions, but no turrets going down for KT.
I mean, how are they going to force something? They don't have the home guard available. They don't even have flash from Someday, barring a super risky Azir Sec play. Okay, as the Zhonya, so a little bit less risky, but Nagne or bust for the next 5 minutes, you have to think, when it comes to really pushing into an inner or inhibitor turret.
Maybe they just go for the Dragon and take their second one of the game. Not going to be particularly useful, but at least you can get a little bit of something. I mean, Someday needs more farm.
Answering the second Dragon at least really removes the realistic hope of a 5-Dragon win condition from Samsung. So, you know, ruining someone else's dreams, maybe that has to do rather than trying to big yourself up.
That's always my philosophy about the smithing.
Keep them down.
Just keep them down. The Schadenfreude is much more entertaining than my own personal success.
So you're the man in this story, keeping us legitimate fans down.
Try and kill the hype in the broadcast.
Expert. We're just waiting for that hype moment. I mean, Nagne was a very nice Azir Sec play onto QV, but it was kind of the cherry on top of what was a really nice team fight for KT. But that's an important factor to consider is the Baron buff. I mean, barring the initial gold, kind of not really a big impact.
No, it certainly hasn't been. They haven't even really been able to take control over the side waves.
Score's in a nice spot.
Score's in a very nice spot. Here we go. Oh, beautiful flank. Luna now forced to pop it early, but there's a nice equalizer coming through. Forces Score flashback. Someday actually dies right there. He can't get into the back line. Nagne's going to be the hero, forcing everybody back out. And there's a kill for Nagne. Arrow getting low. A double for Nagne. There's the Zhonya's. Dies immediately. After the Zhonya's, they're still going to be able to kite. Eve needs to land a spear here, getting some heals down. So 2 for 3, but Samsung ends up within a pretty strong position. Score has the Void Rush if he can get back into this.
So they're going to try and burn this Dragon down. They do have the percentage health damage from QV. He's choosing to zone, though, and as you mentioned, that's
Arrow
free reign.
Up, there we go. They can't do this any longer. Score full HP. Arrow healed off of the minion wave at the bottom side. Gonna try and cook him. Nope, there's a Valk, and they actually get Janna, but
Magi stacks.
And yeah, I guess Magi stacks.
Look, it's a 1-for-1 trade in the end, so it's something, but
Someday's up. Someday's waiting. And nope, no attempt at a steal from Eve.
Aren't even able to drag out the teleport, or the QV would have then had a teleport advantage. Both top lanes have teleport out. We're going to see the replay. Score's positioning is wonderful, but opting into the prime equalizer spot really did hold back KT.
Yeah, it was really nice kiting from Samsung too. That could have been a lot worse than it ended up being. Nagne just flashes here, tries to contain Crown and Fury. Does a beautiful job. That is a gorgeous Emperor's Divine to take out 2 carries.
Even the Zhonya's was super on point. He kind of understood his situation, but was going to at least trade his life for one of the enemy carries. As someday it's back to farming duty.
It was actually one of the better, I think, Azir ults that I've seen in conjunction with Terrain in a really long time. Very nicely done to save that situation after they couldn't fully engage onto the back line. TP's back up, though, for Someday, so he will have a better shot at that. And the longer this game drags on, I think Samsung's hopes really diminish unless they can pull off another good pick.
Unless Nidalee's really on top of things, either instantly deleting someone or just hitting spear after spear onto one of these low magic resist members. At this point, both Rek'Sai and Maokai are going to be largely shaking off Eve's poke, even though a lot of CS, 55 CS up on her opponent, and, you know, a very nice stack of ability power.
Yeah, that is definitely true. The locket is now done, finally at long last for Score. That is some much-needed MR. And Someday also leveling his up. He actually changed his cowl into a Spirit Visage. So they are starting to take the AP threat more seriously. Still no Zhonya's on Kube either.
It's the free push for Arrow onto this bottom turret.
Wow.
No way for Samsung to force it. They were staying as a group, and Corky said, okay, packed his bags and went to the bottom lane.
Yeah, and you can see what Samsung was trying to do there. They wanted to get vision control over Baron before it spawned, but it just ended up that they didn't have any defenders in mid or bottom. KT could have punished that harder, actually. They had the Azir turret in the mid lane. They could have probably gotten both tier 2s, but they didn't want to risk it. They didn't have vision in the enemy top side, so did carry an element of risk.
Gold lead 6.7k gold, which for 38 minutes, not massive for Samsung. The big issue is that a lot of that gold's on Sunday, who's level 18, so the highest level in the game, and honestly, unkillable for the likes of Crown and Fury.
Yeah, that's pretty disastrous. So QSS now finished for Arrow 2. Should he get caught out by a rogue chain of corruption again?
Crown has to be a positioning god. He has a full inventory. He hasn't been able to itemize in a QSS. No flash even at the moment. We discussed the Summoner spell Cleanse Lack to death at this point. If the fight comes through, he's going to die, and so will Samsung's hopes.
Yeah. No good wards, though, for KT really to use teleport on. Someday just going to camp in the base right now, waiting for it. They want to turn. They're going to turn right now, actually. So where's the TV? Oh, they got a deep ward. They had a good one in there. He gets onto Eve right away. Crown still a little bit free, but there's the exhaust. It gets onto him, and that's a nice equalizer, though, and a good snipe onto Peekaboo. But there goes Crown. He pays for it with his life. A double kill for Nagne, and now they just find Kube in the back line. So the Monsoon does enough to negate the actual equalizer, which was well placed, and nice blue steal.
It was one of those cases where they had to fight around the equalizer. They had to eat the damage, but then they re-engaged. So it almost felt like it was swinging towards Samsung, but they re-engaged by Nagne in particular. Was wonderful to see. And now someday, there's no getting through this tree, and there's no denying Baron from KT.
I really like the synergy we're seeing between Someday and Nagne this game, because Nagne just holds on every fight to use his ultimate until that comes through.
So watch the replay. This equalizer does so much damage. If there was just, some damage numbers here, it's burning down 3 members for the majority of the fight. It's nice channeling by Peekaboo, but the re-engage that comes through from Nagne in particular. Picture perfect, and now no zones to respect left from Samsung. So free kills abound.
When we see KT teamfight with these two champions, Someday goes in first and absorbs so many of the cooldowns. And then once Nagne knows that there's nothing else to lock him down, he immediately follows up with these long-range Azir engages. And it's been working incredibly well for them. I think it's just fun to see the synergy and the team fights between these two players.
And while the KT hype train, look, it was derailed a little bit by SKT, although, it was at least competitive in game 1. One of the reasons why it needs to kind of be on the rails to some degree is that, we've spoken at length about Score and Peekaboo. Viewers probably tired of us talking about that duo. Suddenly now we're talking about Someday and Nagne. That's already 2 duos that are certainly on the same wavelength as we hit the business end of the season.
Yeah, very nice team fighting from KT. And there were some misplays, obviously, but KT has shown that they are just better at setting up these team fights. KT repeatedly in this game thinking 1-2 minutes in advance to set up the teleport plays, and that has been the big difference maker. Hello, Someday, right into the back line. Goodbye, everybody dead. Underneath the turret, Arrow going to grab one onto Luna, and now they're just going to pile on through every single tower, diving multiple turrets deep. Kube the next target, and that'll be yet another double kill for Nagne as he really starts to deliver on this Azir, and now they're just going to go through triple kill in the end. And they actually take out 2 turrets en route to a deep dive ace.
And they're just still diving. They don't have a minion wave still, but with 30 seconds on any semblance of wave clear, this should be KT getting back on the train after that SKT series.
Well, it was close at first, but KT plays the map a whole hell of a lot better. They get the teleports. They shut down the poke composition. With time, they get to that point of tankiness. And that'll be a win for KT Rolster in Game 1 of this series.
So much kill participation for the Maokai, for the Rek'Sai. 10-1-4 is the kill score for Nagne. I mean, we have to start talking about this guy's Azir and in general his season, because it might have been a slow burn at the start, but Nagne is really standing up in the last few weeks.
Well, he's actually been very reliable. I won't say that Nagne is certainly not at an elite level of mid laner,
Sure.
but he is a guy with a large champion pool who does his job. Now the question comes, at the top level of competition, do KT have enough true carries to actually take a game? Someday, as you shut him down, seems like it's pretty easy to play around.
Someday